Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about anxiety. I hope that this person who asked me to talk about it is still around here on my channel. I don't blame them if they're not, because I took way too long in this video, but I just didn't really know what to say on this topic necessarily. But I just finally got myself down and wrote out a little outline, and so now I'm finally making this video. So I just wanted to say really quick before I do start, I'm not a doctor. Anything that I say, is just about my own experiences. I'm also not professionally diagnosed. I just basically looked up different symptoms of anxiety or social anxiety, and they all seem to fit to what I feel. So I've kind of, I'm self-diagnosed, if you want to say. I also don't experience panic attacks, so I won't be able to talk about what those feel like or anything like that. My anxiety isn't extreme to that point. It more has to deal with people and just interacting with that kind of stuff. So that was just a bit of a disclaimer. Just because, my anxiety isn't extreme or anything like that, I don't think that I should say that I don't have anxiety, because I do experience anxiety behaviors or anxious behaviors, and I feel like everyone's feelings and thoughts are valid to a certain point. So I just wanted to put this out there. Like I said, somebody did want me to talk about it, and so that is exactly what I'm doing. So like I said in the beginning, I do have social anxiety, and this kind of deals with, maybe it's harder for me to approach people. I have to rehearse what I'm going to say, like for maybe even a day before I talk to someone. If I want to ask them something, I run through a million different scenarios of, if I'm going to say this, is it going to upset them? How are they going to react? I'm always worried that somebody's going to judge me for something I say, even if they have no intention whatsoever of judging me or anything like that. But I come up with these scenarios that they're going to hate me, or things like that. So it's a lot harder for me to approach people or to speak up, say something that maybe I disagree with something, and that's kind of always been that way in my life, except maybe like elementary school or something. I spoke my mind, But it's really gotten to this point where sometimes if I have to talk to somebody, I will get kind of shaky, I'll get very nervous, I stutter over my words, things like that. And to a certain degree, I know that everyone kind of does experience this once in a while, but I feel kind of like in case with people with social anxiety, it's a bit more extreme, and we come up with these scenarios that, make no sense. Like a stranger's gonna hate me just because I said that I like their top, something like that. To that extreme, like I can't even sometimes give people compliments because I feel like they're gonna look at me like, okay, thanks, who are you, and so I just run through these scenarios. So that's kind of how my anxiety shows up, and it also does come with what I've looked up now is called avoidance behavior, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to say maybe that these kind of patterns happened more in around like middle school to high school. In middle school, I had a very good little group of friends. I'm still friends with one of those girls. Her name is Stacy. You saw her in my little Tokyo vlog quite a while ago. And around there I started getting my own personality, and it was a personality that I guess wasn't normal in a way. I was more in the emo phase when normal girls were, trying on dresses and makeup, and I just wanted to wear jeans and hang out, I didn't really care about that kind of stuff. So I was kind of pushed to this little side of school where, people make fun of you, that kind of stuff. And in high school, my high school experience was very strange, I guess. I did go to a Baptist high school, and because I like to wear black, and because, I had different ideas than most people there, I was kind of outcasted. So I feel like maybe this kind of behavior showed up around there, where I was kind of afraid to speak up because people were judging me during that time, and I knew that even though they seemed nice and they were talking to me, I always thought that they had some kind of ulterior motives, and that in the back of their head they were thinking that I was weird, or they would go to their friends later on and say, you know, like, oh, you know, she totally was gullible about this certain scenario, whatever, that kind of stuff. So I think that's where, you know, my thoughts come from, that people are, you know, thinking something different when they're talking to me. And so I think now that I look back, I think that's where it came from. So around middle school to high school is where all this kind of showed up. And then when I got to college, it kind of got a little bit worse for a bit, because I wasn't, if you hear that, then that's just Jake. He's on my bed right now. In college, I wasn't really made to speak to people like you are in high school. You know, you're constantly around the same people for years, and so you kind of have to build relationships in a way. But in college, you can just go to the class and literally just sit there and not talk to a single person sometimes in the classes. And so I kind of grew into this little hermit. Something else I wanted to talk about is how my social anxiety has kind of stopped me from doing different things, and one of those goes in with, like I said before, the avoidance behavior. So in college, you know, I had to go to a counselor so that you can do your whole student education plan, and then you can file for financial aid, and that's like a requirement. You have to go to a counselor, that kind of thing. So unfortunately, when I did go finally, the counselor I had was really mean and very rude. So that kind of, when I finally got out of there, I was like, oh my god, you know, I got through that, but I'm glad I don't have to ever go back. You know, she was so mean, so rude, and I just felt very like pressured in a way that like I had to do better in school, yes, but I felt like this lady, this counselor, you know, just wasn't good at her job. She just kind of told me how bad I was doing in my classes, and she was like, you need to do better or you're not going to get anywhere. And although that was true, it was like the way that she had said it to me that really put me off of talking to another counselor. And after that, at the time I was a music major, and then I switched to biology. And unfortunately, when you switch majors, you have to have another counselor's appointment so that you can get a new student education plan and file for financial aid again. So because of that one experience that I had, it literally took me 2 years to go and sum up enough courage to make another counseling appointment. And 2 years I went without financial aid, which was really hard. I'm not even sure how I really got through that, because I do live at home, and so I guess I told my mom that like maybe I wasn't getting good enough grades. For some reason in my head, it was better to tell my mom I wasn't getting good grades so I couldn't get financial aid than to just go and to the counselor's appointment so that I could get financial aid, because my grades were fine. It was just, I literally just couldn't go back because I was so afraid that I was going to get either the same lady or I was going to get another counselor who was just as rude, and it was going to be really uncomfortable for that whole like half an hour to an hour that you have to sit there and talk through what you want to do with your life. And so it literally took me 2 years to go back, but finally I summed up enough courage. I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore, because my mom was helping me with books, and books are really expensive. So I was like, okay, I need to go to the counselor and I need to get a new student education plan, which I did, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. You know, the anxiety, just the longer you put something off, the more your head comes up with these scenarios, and the more anxious you feel whenever you think about this certain thing that you have to do. So it did take me about 2 years to get there. Finally I did it, and it wasn't so bad. So I'm able to finally like go back and get another counselor's appointment if I need it, just to make sure I'm on track. So that little thing was just one of the examples of how my anxiety kind of stopped me for a while. Another thing to do with college is group assignments and group projects, or just talking in a group. I have, since I've started, I think dropped maybe 2 or 3 classes, simply because there was a group assignment. And I know how bad this seems, and it might just seem like I'm making excuses, which in a way in my head, like, I guess I am, but literally there was like a history class and an English class which I need, and I needed to go through it so that I could move on with my classes. But I literally was just so like, I was just so anxious about talking to my other classmates and doing a group project that I literally dropped the class. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I don't want to talk to them. I can't do that. And so I literally dropped these classes because of this anxious feeling. And it probably, I would have gone through it and it would have been fine. Maybe I would have been uncomfortable for a little bit, but I would have been fine. I know that. And so that's another thing with college. And if any of you have been here since my introversion video, I'll link that if you want to see it. I talked about my phone phobia. So basically I am terrified to talk on the phone, and this kind of goes with sometimes family members, sometimes strangers, or businesses, whatever it may be. It's extremely hard for me to actually call somebody up, and when I think that I have to do it, no matter what it is, really, I mean, I can talk to my mom or my dad, that's not a big deal, but even with them I prefer that I get a text rather than calling. But I remember I had to call this business about a TV, and I wanted to see if they had this certain model of TV in their store, and it wasn't on their Instagram or their website or anything like that, so I had to call them to see if they had this certain model, and it took me a good 2 hours of just staring at my phone, shaking basically, and my heart racing, trying to get myself to finally call. And yes, I did finally call, and the whole time I was talking, I felt my voice shaking and my heart was racing and everything like that, but afterwards I felt really good, like I was accomplished something. But that's how it is still with every call that I have to make. In my Arizona vlog, we were supposed to go to some wolf sanctuary, and I had to call to make an appointment, and they didn't have an email appointment, nothing like that, so I had to call, and it took me, I want to say, maybe 2 weeks before our trip. It took me a long time, and most likely we could have gone. I don't know at this point. I don't know if we could have gone if I had called sooner, but I took a really long time to call, and they were all booked. So, but I think that they were booked for a while, because they said they were booked till almost the end of the year. So either way, I don't know how that would have turned out, but it took me so long to call, and it's just, I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't had any bad experiences of calling on the phone. At least I don't remember any anyway, so I'm not sure where this came from, but I just really can't call anyone on the phone. I have to text them first or email, and calling is a last resort. So that's another thing that kind of is really annoying, and I hope that one day I do get over it. So the last point I wanted to talk about anxiety is how I'm living with it and how I'm dealing with it, and I've touched on this a little bit with the whole phone phobia, that I'm still living with that. But basically I've been able to get a little bit better with my anxiety, and I've been able to put myself out there a little bit more. And doing YouTube is a little bit different, because I am just talking to the camera here, and although I'm putting it up, for however many people to see, I'm not talking to anyone directly, and I'm not getting the judgment face to face. So it's a little bit different. So I have had people say oh, how can you have anxiety, or how can you be an introvert when you have a YouTube channel? But it's very different. It really is. But so I basically have a pretty good, support system. Sometimes people don't understand quite why I can't do things still, but basically, my friends and family, they know certain scenarios that I don't enjoy, or that kind of stuff, so they don't put me in those situations. And I know that they're here for me, and that they love me, and they always mean the best. So I definitely think that a support system is amazing. It's kind of needed for people who have anxiety, and especially people who have anxiety worse than I do, and sometimes can't even leave their house. So even though it's hard to tell people about your anxiety, and sometimes people won't understand, and maybe they'll think that you're just making excuses, or you're lazy, or things like that. There's always the internet. I'm talking to you right now. Internet friends are usually the most non-judgmental people, and make sure they're friends, though. I mean, obviously people who aren't friends are always going to judge, but people who you can find who share similar experiences and feel the same way, you can build your own support system online, and even me just talking to you right now, you know, if you wanted to send me a message or an email, I'm always open to talk to people like that, you know. Email, though, you know, talking to people face to face is hard enough, but through email or whatever, you know, I'm always here for people like that. Even if you just want to talk about your day, you know, just start some kind of conversation or friendship, I'm definitely here for that. I would love to have that, in fact. And even in the comments, you know, I try to reply if people comment, so definitely I'm here and I will be part of your support system for sure. And going along with the whole face-to-face thing, that is really hard, but since I've joined Apex, and that's another video that'll pop up about Apex, is the wolf sanctuary that I'm volunteering at, being there has really helped me a lot. I really have felt the improvements because while I'm there, I'm a volunteer and we do have events where people come and see the wolves, and you know, you have to talk to them and you have to make sure that they have a good experience so that they tell their friends about the sanctuary, and you know, so we get more people coming in. And I found that it's actually really easy now in a way. Some days are better than others. Some days I won't want to talk and, you know, I'll stay in the back during the hike or whatever. But really it's become kind of second nature when I'm there, at least, to be able to talk to people. And since I'm around, you know, the kind of field that I want to be in, I'm able to talk a lot easier because it's something I'm passionate about, is wolves. And so it's easier to talk to people about wolves and about our wolves and, you know, answer the questions and stuff like that. And just a few weeks ago, you know, I had actually my whole little group of the people who came over. I had certain people who found me interesting and wanted to ask me questions instead of like the directors or other more experienced volunteers, which was really great. It felt really great to be able to talk to people and have them like interested in what you're saying. So that was really amazing, and Apex has really helped me become a lot better at talking to people. And so I think that's something too, you know, if you have a job or if you want to volunteer, that's a really great way to be able to push yourself a little bit more, because in those situations, you know, you have to talk to people. Sometimes it's not really an option to just stay in the back, you know, so even though sometimes it is hard some days to talk to people, you know, I just have to push myself. And I honestly can't remember where this came from, but there was a movie or something like that, I'm pretty sure, completely different scenario, but it was something like you just need a few seconds of courage to just push yourself and then you're there, you know. So you just have to have like 3 or 4 seconds to just dial that number and call, because once you're calling, you know, you have to talk. I mean, of course you can hang up, but it's like at that point you're already halfway there. So, or even like, you know, speaking up in class, it just takes you those 3 seconds to just blurt the words out, and then you're there, so then you can engage with somebody or the class or whatever. So I've kind of kept that in my head, and that is something that I think about a lot, that it just takes a little bit, to just put yourself out there, and then you're there, you know, and then you can deal with whatever comes next. And finally, I've struggled with this a lot, but I have finally kind of learned to not be so hard on myself. Definitely not too long ago, really, I used to think, you know, I don't really have such bad anxiety. There's people who have it worse than me, you know, they have panic attacks, they can't leave their house, you know, things like that. So I used to think like, I don't want to tell people I have anxiety because they're going to be like, oh, you're just, you know, you just want to be special, you know. And I don't think that way as much anymore. I still kind of do. I still kind of am iffy about putting this video out there because there's going to be a lot of people, I think anyways, who might, you know, think that I just want to be special, that I want to have something that people can pity me about, and, you know, stuff like that. But I've learned to just be like, you know, this is how I feel, my feelings are completely valid, and, you know, I'm working with it. I'm not just anymore, I should say. There was a point where I just used like, oh, I can't do that because I feel anxiety, you know, just because I didn't want to do something, which is really horrible. But I used to use anxiety as like an excuse, and now it's kind of just like, yeah, I have anxiety, and maybe it'll make me stop doing certain things or whatever, or it'll be harder for me, but I have to do it, and I don't want it to hold me back anymore. So I'm trying to be a little bit more sympathetic with myself, where I'm like, you know, you do have anxiety, but it's something that you can work with, and you don't have to always tell yourself that, you know, you wish you were normal and, you know, this kind of stuff like I used to think. And so I've learned to just not be so hard on myself and give myself days where I'm like, okay, today I'm just not going to say anything to anyone, you know, and it's okay, because that's kind of my way of recharging. So it's been a struggle for sure, and I'm still struggling with it. I mean, days I think like, oh my god, like, you know, why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just be like outgoing and stuff like that? But those days pass, and you know, it's only, those thoughts are only temporary, so I kind of just learned to slowly move on with it. So if you're dealing with anxiety, please don't feel like you are alone. There are like hundreds and thousands of people who feel exactly the way that you do, and you're not alone in this. And like I said, I am definitely here, you know, if you want to email me or comment down below, you know, just start a conversation about it. So if you want to rant about it, or you want to talk about how maybe you get through the day with your anxiety, you know, we could all use more tips for sure, us anxious people. So I definitely think that it's something that needs to be talked about, and don't feel like, you know, just because maybe you feel only anxious in one area that you shouldn't say that you have anxiety, you know, like I did. So I hope that this video helped you a little bit, and to that person out there who did once ask me to make this video, I hope that you're still watching and that this video helped you a little bit and that you're not too mad that it took me this long to make it. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and definitely comment down below about any tips that you have, or if you know somebody who has anxiety, and if maybe this helped you understand anxiety just a little bit more. And I will leave all my social media down below. You can talk to me on any of those if you feel like it, and subscribe for more videos in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.